I now have the pleasure of introducing our Community Advocate Award honoree and speaker, who is an amazing woman working at the intersections of advocacy, civil rights, social justice, and LGBTQ equality. Ashland Johnson has extensive experience working with major sports leagues and associations, including the NBA, NCAA, NFL, USOC, and various national governing bodies to strengthen their social responsibility programming policies and platforms at the intersection of inclusion, race, gender, and the law. A former NCAA Division I athlete herself, Ashland recently authored the groundbreaking report, Play to Win, Improving the Lives of LGBTQ Youth in Sports, which provides critical insights and action steps for more inclusive sporting spaces. It is so important to have out leaders helping to make sure all spaces are inclusive of LGBTQ youth, including sports, particularly right now. So please join me in welcoming Ashland Johnson.
Jonathan, do a quick photo. This is for you. We're gonna do a quick photo. Can you stand right over here? Put you in the middle. Right over here. I didn't know.
Thank you all for being here today. It's truly an honor receiving this award from such an amazing organization. I mean that, I really do. I know a lot of us growing up would have loved to have had SMYAL in our lives. Being here in this room and standing in front of you, I feel lucky. I feel lucky to be accepting an award for work that an organization like SMYAL just makes so much more easier to do. I'm up here as an honoree, but I'm also up here to say thank you to you all. So thank you. All right, so I'll try to be quick, but they did choose a lawyer to close this down, so this could take a while. As many of you can tell from my bio and from my height, I've always been into sports. And that's what I'm going to focus on today. So sports, that powerful and polarizing institution where many a queer woman met their first crush, and many a queer man learned how to play bocce. or kickball, depending on how old you are, where you live. So for me, sports has always been a part of my life. I'm from the South, where sports is basically a religion, second only to actual religion. This was my family's love language. Getting outside, competing against each other brought us closer, more close than anything else. And I felt at ease on the court, on the pitch, on the basketball court. I was at home, which at other times was a feeling that I fought harder and harder to find, being my true self that I was, a queer Black girl in the South. Sports allowed me to forget my otherness for a bit, to engage authentically with the significant aspect of Southern culture, not only belonging, but excelling. I felt powerful and free in my own skin. It's that feeling that sparked my passion for athletics in the first place. Now, don't get me wrong, I had a nasty crossover for the few of you who know what that actually is. But this feeling just felt so real that I could do something that I love so much and have the support of my community in doing it. And when you find something that makes you feel that way, you stick with it. So I worked on my game. I earned a scholarship to play Division I basketball. And by this time, I realized that I was gay. And at first, I told myself, this doesn't matter. It's not relevant. On the court, I'm Ashland, the basketball player. Who cares who I was attracted to? That shouldn't matter. It shouldn't have mattered, but it did. It mattered because people did care. It wasn't just Ashland, the basketball player, to them. I was Ashland, the gay basketball player. And even though my jump shot was still great, my crossover was still money, and my defense stayed tight, my sexual orientation still bothered people. Because it was different from theirs, it somehow became their business. They wanted me to be another way. They wanted me to act another way. They wanted me to deny my authentic self. And it affected me. Now, even if you don't know much about sports, you know that sports are as much about the physical things as they are about the mental things. It's about, yes, your speed, your strength, your power, your technique. But if you've ever had to play after getting bad news or after being hungover, most likely with this crowd, you know what I'm talking about. There's a reason that coaches say, like, get out of your head, get into the game. It wasn't until I came out and embraced every aspect of my identity that I began to thrive both on and off the court. A weight was lifted, I excelled as a player, and in that freedom I felt from being my true self, my whole self, I discovered my passion, advocacy. I went to law school, I became a civil rights lawyer, and I started fighting for equality for marginalized communities. Eventually, I returned to my roots. I decided to concentrate the energy and effort I was pouring into my work by combining my passion for sports and my passion for social justice. So in 2018, I created the Inclusion Playbook. It's a sports consultancy dedicated to helping sports teams, organizations, and athletes transform their communities in and through sports. Since then, I've had the privilege to work with the NBA, the U.S. Olympic Committee, the NCAA, expanding their LGBTQ initiatives. I also helped train hundreds of coaches on creating LGBTQ inclusive spaces for their athletes, and work with dozens of sports governing bodies to create trans-inclusive policies for youth. Yes, because I know what every single one of you in this room knows, what SMYAL knows and centers in their groundbreaking work every single day, that LGBTQ youth deserve not just safety, but joy. And sports are a powerful way to make that possible. Now, as a queer Black girl growing up in the South, sports helped me see and find myself, recognize my abilities, and stand strong in my power. But far too often, though, LGBTQ youth are left on the sidelines. Now, the national average for participation in sports for youth is around 68%. But for LGBTQ youth, they participate in a rate in sports at only 24%. And these numbers are significantly lower for trans youth. 4 out of 5 LGBTQ youth do not feel safe enough to come out to their coaches. And this year alone, a record number of states tried to introduce bills to ban trans athletes from participating in sports altogether. What this means is that more and more LGBTQ youth are missing out on the many benefits we know that athletics provides. Kids who play sports generally have higher GPAs, higher self-esteem, and better health outcomes throughout their lives. And research shows that LGBTQ youth who participate in sports have higher rates of well-being than LGBTQ youth who do not. It is not just that LGBTQ kids, especially trans youth, deserve the same opportunities of safety in sports. It is that their life outcomes are deeply impacted by not having these same opportunities in these spaces. Now, sports are powerful. They reflect and shape our society. That's why it's essential that we make sure that our courts and our fields are inclusive spaces that promote the diversity of all of our communities. It is urgent that we ensure that everything about them, the joy, the self-discovery, and the education that they provide remains accessible to all of us, especially LGBTQ youth. And there are things that we can do right now to make sure this happens. We can support organizations like SMYAL that can promote LGBTQ youth belonging in every institution, including athletics. We can support businesses like Monumental Sports that encourage their teams to have pride nights and have inclusive policies for their fans. We can speak out against efforts to ban trans youth from participating in sports. And we don't have to stop there. We can encourage our leaders and our organizations to do more, to find ways to leverage your internal resources to make sports more inclusive for all.
Yes.
And last but not least, you can recognize and believe in the importance and power of sports as a place where everyone is free to be themselves and play. So thank you again to SMYAL for this extraordinary honor, and special thanks to my people who have consistently provided me with love and support and patience that I need to do this work, to Jenny, to Maya, to Jacob. And thanks again to all of you for being here today and for your continuous support for the work that SMYAL does on a day-to-day basis.